It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast. I am Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm the co-host and parenting expert on that hit TV show that you might have seen on Channel 9 and 9 Now, Parental Guidance, and also the author of a bunch of books about making your family happier, the dad to 6 daughters. And every Tuesday on the Happy Families podcast, I answer your questions about how to make your family happier and grapple with the big challenges of helping kids to thrive. If you'd like to submit a question, go to happyfamilies.com.au and click on the podcasts link. Then all you have to do is push the record button and start talking. It's that simple. Here's our first question today.
Hi, Justin and Kylie. I have a happy, energetic 3.5-year-old boy who's been asking where his dad is for over a year and is now asking why his dad doesn't live with us. His dad has severe mental health and addiction issues and left when my son was 12 weeks old. How do I approach this with my son in a way that supports his own mental health and self-esteem? Thank you.
Well, Anonymous, thank you so much for sending through this voicemail and asking the question. It sounds like you're really on the ball, doing a great job as a single mum. It is probably one of the toughest things that you could ever do. And I love the way that you've got your focus. Your focus here is, I think, right on. It sounds to me like you're trying to have a really healthy response to a very difficult situation. It sounds like you really want to honor your son's father, support your son, but also advocate for yourself in a developmentally appropriate way for your 3.5-year-old, which is not a small task. There's a lot of things to pull together here. So let's go through a couple of things that I reckon are going to be helpful. The first thing that I would say is if you've got a little guy who's asking questions about dad, the questions are going to be fairly easy to navigate once you know what they are and can prepare some responses. My guess is, who is my dad? Would be one of the questions. He's probably also going to want to know why he's not here and whether he's coming back and if he can meet him and whether dad misses him. When I think about life through the eyes of a 3-year-old, these are the kinds of questions that I'd imagine a young boy is going to be asking about dad. Now, my advice around this is that it's important that you tell the truth. But again, you want to tell the truth in a way that honors dad, even though he's not present, supports your son because he really needs it, and is an appropriate way of self-efficacy for you. I mean, what we're not wanting to do is make anyone into either a demon or a victim here. How do you do that? Well, I think you stick to facts. You definitely don't overshare. I don't think that it's healthy at all to use your children as therapists, and it certainly doesn't sound like you're going to do it, but I do see it happening and hear of it happening far more than is useful. And also don't project your stuff onto your son. So how would you do that? Let's take those questions that I mentioned and imagine responding to them. So when you've got a son who says, who is my dad? I want to know who dad is. I've never met him. Obviously, he's been gone since the kid was 3 months old. I would say, well, here's a photo. If you have any photos, show those photos. Let him have a photo of dad on his bedside table. He may grow up to think that dad is awesome. My guess is, as you answer the other questions honestly, he's going to probably not go down that path, but may have a more realistic picture of him. But he still should love his dad. He's biologically wired to, he's designed to. And so long as he can do that in a safe way, I don't see any problems with it. So name dad, photographs of dad, share stories of dad, honor dad, and talk about the positive experiences that you did have with him. Clearly, there's been a relationship that led to the conception of a child and the birth of a child. So let's honor what was good about it and try to move forward from there. Now, as for the question of why dad's not here, I think, again, absolutely focus on the truth. You want to highlight that dad had some really big problems. His head didn't quite work in a healthy way. You might want to talk about mental health. It's hard to talk about mental health with a 3-year-old, so keep it really, really simple. I'm sort of reading between the lines here, but if there are anger issues, say, daddy got angry a lot and we just decided that until he could stop being angry, it was better that he wasn't with me. It's perfectly okay, again, to advocate for yourself and highlight that dad's not perfect. He had some flaws and that's why he's not there. The one central thing that's important here is that your son doesn't think that dad's gone because of him. As for the question, is he coming back? Well, answer that one truthfully as well. If the answer is no, say, no, sweetheart, daddy's not coming back. I don't talk to dad. I don't have any interaction with him. We're not going to see him again. Let him know straight up. If that's not the case, if he is potentially going to be in the picture as he works himself out, then again, let your son know, but be really truthful, be really transparent, stick to the facts, and don't overshare. If your son wants to meet dad, again, the details matter here, and all the same things that I've shared absolutely apply. And the last question that I thought your little guy might be asking is, does dad miss me? I think this is a really sensitive question. And what it's getting at is, am I lovable? Does dad love me? Am I important to him? In relation to that question, I don't know how you answer it because I don't have the details of what's going on there. But I would hope that you could say to your little guy, son, sweetheart, kiddo, I'm almost certain that he does. And let him have that feeling of safety and security in being lovable. And dad's not here, not because of me, but because of his own stuff. What you're doing here is you're giving him the answers that he needs. I think that you're able to give him the tools to cope as well. Some other tools that you could give him to cope outside of the conversation: good male role models, just having good people in his life, grandpa, uncles, friends. Maybe as he gets older, you could create some sort of a journal, some kind of a memory book of dad, perhaps, if that feels right for you. If it doesn't, disregard it. I mean, I'm speaking from a really large distance, but letters, activities. I mean, if you can write a letter to dad and get a postcard back, wow, that could potentially be great, unless dad's not safe. Again, you need to use your discretion and your discernment around this. It is a tough situation. Look, it's tough to grow up without a dad, but with a mum who's willing to keep the conversation going in a supportive way while still advocating for herself and protecting her son, well, that's powerful. And it's tough to raise a son solo. But again, if you can advocate for yourself, keep the conversation going and support your son, my sense is that you're going to be able to do this in a really productive and positive way. Question number 2.
My name is Lisa, and I'm calling from Canada. I listen to your podcast every day, and I highly value your work. I have 3 children. The eldest is 11 and going into grade 7 in September, which means that she will need to go to a new school. I had been planning to have her take the school bus, thinking that it would help build independence and would also help make the mornings easier. But then I listened to your podcast on pornography, where it was casually mentioned that the school bus is XXX rated, and now I'm rethinking things. My daughter would be spending 5 hours a week on this bus ride, and I want to do what's best for her. I'd really love your thoughts on this.
Well, Lisa from Canada, thank you so much for listening every single day to every single episode. I love the way podcasts can reach right around the world. It's great to have you listening. Thank you for doing that. And don't you hate those casual mentions of XXX rated content on the school bus? It gets into your psyche, doesn't it? It really affects the way that you're seeing things. Let's talk about this. You've highlighted the advantages, Lisa. The advantages of your 11-year-old being on the school bus are significant. The first one that really needs emphasis is this is an opportunity for her to develop a really strong sense of independence, self-efficacy, confidence, resilience. It's great for your daughter. That's the first thing. Secondly, the independence is great, but it makes your life so much easier. And I love my kids getting older because the older they get, the easier my life tends to be. The more they're able to do things independently. It feels good. I love that. So I'm going to share a model with you that I think will help here, because that XXX issue, it can't be ignored. It does exist. It is a thing. On top of that, you've unfortunately got stuff like bullying and just exposure to degrading and coarse content. We work so hard to keep our kids safe, and then suddenly they hit sort of 11, 12, 13 years of age. They start catching school buses. They start being exposed to things, and you think, oh my goodness, all that hard work has kind of just vanished. It's gone out the window. The model that I want to share with you should be helpful for you in discerning the best way forward. And the model was developed by a researcher called Laura Walker. She's an adolescent researcher at Brigham Young University in the US. She came up with this model where she describes how we can cocoon our children, we can pre-arm our children, and we can defer to our children. When we practice cocooning, pre-arming, and deference to our kids, we can developmentally appropriately lead them along the path to their absolutely wonderful independence. Cocooning your kids means that you wrap them up and hide them from the world. It means that you protect them. And there is a strong argument that we should be doing that, especially when they're young or when they're being exposed to novel situations and they're not quite developmentally ready for them. Cocooning is a good thing. People say it's rubbish and we shouldn't do it, but there are absolutely appropriate times to do that. I cocoon my little kids from things that I expose my big kids to, and that's developmentally reasonable to do. Pre-arming is the second thing that we would talk about. Now, pre-arming is where we say, okay, I've cocooned you for a while, but pretty soon you're going to be at a point where you're going to be doing X, Y, or Z, catching the school bus, for example. And when you jump on that school bus, there's a strong chance that you're going to be exposed to this stuff, explicit content or bullying or coarse language or, whatever you want to throw into the list. If you can imagine it happening on the school bus, you mention it and say, that's what's going on there. So we're pre-arming our child. Now, we don't just warn them that this stuff's coming up. We actually develop plans with them. We ask questions about them. We help them to identify their values around those challenges and issues. As we do that, then we move to deference. Deference is, okay, I've pre-armed you. You've got some runs on the board. You've gone and tried this stuff. You've had some experience in life. What do you think you should do in this situation? And you can see how as kids get older and have more experience and more maturity, and they become more conscious of their values and of what's going on in the world around them, you can see how you would move from cocooning to pre-arming to deferring to them. Now, there's a couple of intermediate steps. You've got cocooning and then you've got reasoned cocooning. Okay, that's where you go from just bubble wrapping them to explaining why you're bubble wrapping them, which leads naturally into pre-arming. And then you have reasoned deference where you explain what you think and then you defer to them based on your explanation and then you move into deference. Okay, that's just a little bit of additional detail on that model. In terms of your 11-year-old jumping on this bus, I think that a 3 E's conversation, a pre-arming 3 E's, explore, explain, empower conversation is what you want to do. Ask questions. How are you feeling about the bus? What are you worried about? What do you feel good about? What do you think it's going to be like? And then make plans. I see you're worried about this, this, and this. What do you reckon would be the best way to encounter this and move forward from it? And then you can help your child to establish some plans and maybe even establish some relationships to make the school bus feel safer. I'm always going to sit near the bus driver, for example, or I'm going to sit with friends that I know are safe and make me feel safer and stronger to be around. I'm going to work on communication. So I get to talk to my parents every day when I come home about what's been going on. And over time, Lisa, I think that your daughter's going to feel not just pre-armed, but safe and strong doing that. What you don't want to do is live in fear. And this model with the explore, explain, empower process underpinning it is, I think, what it's going to take to help you to enjoy those mornings without having to do the school run, waving goodbye to your daughter and saying, have a great day, and trusting that she's going to be okay on the school bus. I think for the most part, if you can work through this, she will be okay. And the best part is if she's not, because you've been having these conversations, she's going to come home and communicate with you, which means that you'll be able to take the appropriate action. Lisa from Canada, thanks so much for your call. If you would like to submit a question, we answer your questions every Tuesday on the Happy Families podcast. All you need to do is go to happyfamilies.com.au, click on the podcast's link, and then record your question. It's that simple. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rawlon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And for more information about making your family happier, we'd love for you to visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.